Thank God it's Friday, but before we get into the weekend mood, welcome to 55 minutes of business trip around the world here on Business Incorporated. And here's what we have for you in the next 55 minutes. It's International Women's Day. We're celebrating African women on the program today. And then we will look at Botswana, the tourism potential, and what some of the tourists there are saying. And then sugar cane, and the price of sugar is going on right here in Kenya. We'll find out the details in a couple of minutes. Good afternoon, I'm Ini John Mekwa. Welcome to Business Incorporated. We start with business in the global space. Oil prices rose on Friday, driven by growing demand in the world's biggest consumers. That's the United States and China, while the U.S. Federal Reserve gave a positive signal on the possibility of rate cuts. Brent crude futures were up 0.6%, that's about 49 cents at $83.45 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 0.7%, that's about 60 cents to $79.53 a barrel. Both contracts were down slightly on the week so far, however, with Brent and WTI down 0.1% and 0.5% respectively. In China, import of crude oil rose 5.1% in the first 2 months of 2024 from a year earlier, and India's fuel consumption increased by 5.7% in February on the year amid strong factory activity in the world's third biggest oil importer and consumer. For grains now, Chicago wheat inched higher on Friday with short covering supporting prices after recent declines, although the market is on track for a second week of losses on lack of demand and plentiful global supplies. Corn is poised for a third week of grain, while soybeans are up for a second week on positioning ahead of a monthly supply-demand report, which is due later on from the United States Department of Agriculture, is due today. The most active wheat contracts on the Chicago Board of Trade added 0.1% to $5.29 for a quarter of a bushel. As of corn, that gave up 0.3% to $4.36 for three-quarters of a bushel, and soybeans rose 0.3% to $11.70 for a quarter of a bushel. For the week, wheat has lost around 5%, corn is up nearly 3%, and soybeans has risen 1.5%. China cancelled purchases of 130,000 metric tons of U.S. soft red winter wheat, according to the USDA, after prices dropped since Chinese importers went on a buying spree last year. Egypt's state grains buyer, the General Authority for Supply Commodities, also cancelled an international tender for wheat that had a deadline for offers of March the 7th. Global wheat buyers are booking cargoes for immediate needs, buying just 1 or 2 months in advance on expectations of bumper Northern Hemisphere harvest in the second half of this year, 2024. For metals now, gold prices were poised for their biggest weekly jump in 5 months, hovering near a historic high as Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, his remarks are cemented mid-year rate cuts bets ahead of key jobs reports, which is due later on today, Friday. Spot gold was a little change at $2,157.16 per ounce, hovering around a record peak of $2,164.09 that it had hit in the previous session. U.S. gold futures were flat, $2,164.40. Spot prices have gained more than 3.5% so far this week, on track to log their biggest weekly percentage gain since mid-October, when the Israel-Hamas conflict first escalated. This will also be bullion's third straight weekly climb if gains hold. While a spore of short-term speculation activity primarily driven by CTAs or commodity trade advisors and algorithm trading prompted the gold rally, it's very much that this expectation of interest rate cuts in the not-too-distant future that's backing it. according to directors of Metals Focus. Looking at prices, some other prices, spot platinum fell 0.3% to $916.30 per ounce. Silver also fell 0.1% to $24.29, while palladium was on the flip side. It gained 0.5% to $1,039.17. All three metals are poised for a weekly gain. And so it's the celebration day today, International Women's Day. Earlier today on Business Morning, we had the Group Managing Director of Charms PLC, Mrs. Mayo Olanio. She joined us and shared some tips she believes looking at the theme for this year, which obviously is empowering women to accelerate progress. And she spoke on some areas which she believes women should be given advantage at this time.
For now, what area do we need to prioritize? We know, one, I will say it, in technology, startup is key for us to prioritize and support women to start up their own business. We have a lot of them at management level. They are managing, but they can do a lot better. If you are able to transit like Juliet Ehime, the former Google directors, the founder of Beyond the Limits, if you can have a number of that, the like of Damilola Olokesisi, a lot of that in the industry, develop their skill, entrepreneurial skill, beyond working, beyond managing the organization. Let them be able to start their own business, support them, invest in their startup. Apparently, women actually, organizations that are led by women are more profitable most often than that of their counterparts. If we invest in them and support them, they will be able to bring in up a lot of women that will attain that level as well. As I mentioned, that I leverage on other women that are at the top, that grew me, that mentored me, that supported me to attain this feat. So if we have a lot of women being supported to start their own organization and able to employ others and mentor others as well, I think we will accelerate the progress as we desire.
We're still on the celebration of women around the world today. Let's look at the public sector and see one woman who has been there for a while sharing her experience with us, and that's the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, that's NIDCOM, Mrs. Abike Dabiri. Mrs. Dabiri, I must say congratulations. First of all, happy... Okay, Mrs. Dabiri, happy International Women's Day. I think that's a good place to start. I know you said you'll be at an event, so of course celebrating the women, but welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm still at the event, and let me get a good background. So, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
So we're actually at an event with the professional women here in Native, and the talk is about inclusion of women as we mark the International Women's Day. So we're sharing experiences, talking about with one another, and that's it. So,
all right. So, I mean, let's talk from your perspective. You have been in the public sector for a bit. This morning, we saw that the Group Managing Director of Charms PLC in the private sector. You are in the public sector, and they say politics is a dirty game, but you've been surviving in the waters of politics for years now. Share with us, as a woman, your experience being involved in politics in Nigeria.
Like the story I just told here at this forum with women, when I was going to go into politics, it was like, no, I can't. It's a dirty game. But I'd gone to Harvard University. I'd gone for this course in leadership in the developing economy, and I came back challenged to see what I could do. So in going into it, first thing was to go to my constituency, met the various groups, and I made up my mind that it was something I was going to do. But here's the thing. If you're dirty, you play dirty. So if you are dirty, you play dirty. Life itself is tough. Journalism is tough. Banking is tough. Any profession is tough. How do you, as a person, conduct yourself? How do you, as a person, carry on? Look, I know that, there are a lot of things, late night meetings is well dominated, but you got to do what you got to do with dignity, with integrity, with respect, with compassion, and the fear of God. But one thing is missing, which I will say categorically, that there's no compassion in political space today. So there should be compassion in what we all do. And it's about the people, and making a difference in their life. So it's everything could be dirty. Your job there will be dirty. There's politics everywhere. But how do you conduct yourself? But most importantly, is that as we mark International Women's Day, women need to get together, be united, make a difference. We're agents of change. Let's be determined that we can make that change. We can make the difference. We have the numbers, but how do we get united? It's a big challenge. So no matter how difficult things are, let's learn to overcome those challenges and be ready to make a difference wherever we find ourselves.
Yeah, that's a point you brought up. Women being united sounds like a sensitive chord because, there's a notion that women do not like supporting women. I wonder if that has changed, because if we're asking the world to celebrate us, we should first be able to celebrate and support ourselves before we ask, for others to do the same.
Yeah, when you say it has changed, I think it's just a perception. For instance, I'm doing this interview because a woman is asking me to do it. Not that it's convenient for me, but as a woman, you have asked me to do something. Number one is that you think I'm qualified. Two is, a fellow woman is asking me. Let me do everything to, make her also successful in her own profession. So it depends on what you're talking about. I think it's still a perception. I'm with a group of women here. When I got into politics in my constituency, the first set of people that supported me were the women. So it depends on the level that you're talking about. But I think what we need to do as women is have more conversations around this topic, gather ourselves together. And then I believe that if you put yourself forward as a woman and you have all the qualities and criteria, you get the kind of support that you're looking for. I don't think that you should support me just because I'm a woman, but support me because I'm qualified, I'm competent. So when we bring women forward, let's bring out the very best of us as women. That is also one thing. And then when we set the political space, that man is not going to leave that space for you. You have to walk in qualified, competent. So first is we putting our best foot forward as women. And then two is we must have those conversations about being united. We must have those conversations about saying that, what binds us together is deeper than what separates us as women. So we keep having that conversation and hopefully we'll get there. But I believe that if today, we have the kind of woman we want, qualified, competent, and wants a particular position, I think we're in the state where women will support. And we all have to get together and talk to one another and have those conversations, as we're doing now on your program.
Yes, of course. So looking at the theme today, invest in women to accelerate progress, what sort of investment do you think we should be talking about at this time in Nigeria?
Sorry, I lost you for 30 seconds.
Okay, so I'm talking about the theme, invest in women. When we look at the Nigerian terrain, what areas of investment should we be talking about for women at this time?
Okay, economic empowerment is very important. It starts with economic empowerment. What can you do if you don't have any money in your pocket? What can you do if you're not economically empowered? So we should stop paying lip service to economic empowerment of women. As that today, women still remain the poorest in the world. It's been so, when I was even a journalist reporting, the statistics are even worse now. Women still remain the poorest in the world. So we need to invest in women. And we also know that investing in women, they do not disappoint you. If you give a woman, no matter how small, they work with it, they make returns, and they prosper with it. And we should stop paying lip service to that adage that educate a woman, you educate the world. Let us also ensure that our girls are educated. There are still areas where girls don't go to school. Then let's look at culturally too. There are still cultures that let you know that, you are just a woman. You can't do ABCD. We have to stop all that. And it means, having more conversations and something around that. And then political empowerment. And when I say political empowerment, look at the parliament. Well, there was off now in terms of numbers. When I was in parliament, we were 27. Today, I doubt if they're even up to 12. Same thing with the Senate. We used to have female deputy governors. How many do we have now? State House of Assembly. How many women do we have? So it starts with the political parties. Political parties have to be intentional about political empowerment of women. And there are women, and the women themselves too should come out. A lot of women sit back and say, oh, it's dirty. I'm afraid. You can't be afraid. You have to have the courage, if it is in you, to do what you got to do. Women are mothers. We're achievers. We're agents of change. And, as we mark International Women's Day, not just a day to just celebrate, but a day to throw those challenges at ourselves and see what more we can do better. So a lot of empowerment, economic, political, culturally, we need every empowerment. Political parties need to do a lot more. Every political party in Nigeria is not being sincere with women in Nigeria today, and that is the fact of the matter.
So, Mrs. Dabia, I want to find out from you. Thank God you used to be a journalist. When it comes to getting women to talk to you, even if you were just conducting a vox pop on the road, or you want to get women on TV, it's like 2 times more difficult. Was it like that in your time?
Sorry, I lost you, but I think I got what you're saying.
I can repeat.
Look,
I can repeat. Okay.
Okay, repeat it.
Okay, so I was asking because, now, if you want to get vox pop out on the street or you want to get an executive career woman on air, and that's why if you look, of course, you know that, you look at television station, mostly it's men that you have. Was it that way your time, or is it getting easier or more difficult for us now?
No, my time. You go to women, they run away. Even when I was in Parliament, when I was chairman of the Committee on Media, I get media to go and talk to some of our women. They'll say, no, I don't want to talk. It was that way in my time. So I should be asking you whether it is still that way in your time. And that's why I use the word courage. We must, as women, have the courage to speak out, have the courage to do what we have to do. Nobody should stop us but ourselves. So let's stop us. When I went into politics, it was tough. It is still tough. But I had the courage to say, I want to do this. And I also had the courage to know when I was not going to contest anymore. After 12 years, I said, I wasn't going to contest in Parliament anymore. It took courage to take that decision. So courage is very key. So as we have these conversations, let's encourage women to be courageous, to take the decisions that we have to take. But also, most importantly, courage with family. Family first. We are mothers. We raise children. We have to place emphasis on the kind of children that we're raising, the kind of moral values that we're imparting on our children. Because without the right moral values, we'll have a totally lost society. So that is also very important as we talk about empowerment and as we talk about Women's Day. Let's raise our children properly, impart the right moral values in them, and build a better society. It's still our responsibility to build our society.
All right, Mrs. Abike Dabiri, Chairman, Chief Executive Officer of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. Thank you so much for your time and enjoy the rest of the event. All right, that was Mrs. Dabiri, and she is at an event, a women's event, obviously, at this time. So it's not just Nigerian perspective we're getting. Let's head over to South Africa. We also have a member of parliament in South Africa, Ms. Hasina Ismail. She joins us from Johannesburg. And then we have an entrepreneur from the private sector. So we'll get, a more balanced perspective right there from South Africa. Dr. Vivian Mokeme, they both join us to celebrate women today, International Women's Day. Hello, ladies. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so let's start with the Member of Parliament, Ms. Ismail. We just spoke to a Nigerian who has been through, when it comes to the political route here in Nigeria. Share with us how it is as a woman in the public sector in South Africa. Is it easier than being a man or practicing here in Nigeria?
Well, good morning to everybody, or rather good afternoon to everybody. I think everywhere is the same. I think, I actually got into politics simply because there are so many socio-economic, issues in the country, South Africa itself. And when you're looking at making the difference, I think the previous speaker spoke out to say, first and foremost, women are mothers. And automatically, when you're a mother, you're an educator. And when you're an educator, you care. And when you care, you actually want to make the difference on the ground. And sometimes, in order to make the difference on the ground, you have to go the extra mile. And when you go the extra mile, it's the time that you realize you actually have to join politics to make the difference. Because you can do as much as you want to, on the ground with social development, or with social issues. You say people cannot afford food, or people cannot afford stationery, or people, our youth are not actually going forward. So you can have youth days, for example. However, that doesn't change the impact of your life. And that's where I actually joined politics, to say, in order to change the momentum on the ground, in order to increase, the lives span of human beings, and to increase or rather to improve the impact on the ground, the social impact on the ground, is that was the reason I joined politics. I mean, I joined politics becoming a PR counselor. I joined politics then to become a ward counselor until I reached parliament. So I think, much more needs to be done at all spheres actually of government, and not only South Africa but all across the world, to be able to say, are we doing enough to actually empower women? Because I think we need more investment in many ways in order to say, is the woman in a particular family going to be able to be empowered to take care of the families? I mean, we have so many broken homes. We have so many single moms that are fighting every day just to put food on the table and to make sure that kids are taken care of. So there are not a lot of opportunities for women in business. I mean, the pay gap remains too big. There's not enough funding for women-owned businesses. And this actually includes, assistance with understanding business and legislation. So basically, I think much more needs to be done, although there are quite a bit of, women in politics, if I could put it. I mean, we have various parties, the ANC, the DA, the EFF, etc. But I mean, whether we have sufficient women in politics, I think we need to improve on that.
All right, let's turn to Dr. Vivian now. She's in the private sector. Dr. Vivian, would you say it is easier to participate in the private sector than the public sector in South Africa?
Good afternoon, everyone. To answer your question, it's not easy. I find it's more easier in public sector because there are laws that are really promoting and protecting women than in the private sector. So in the private sector, I am, and so as many other women like Vivian, we are still facing many challenges, breaking the barrier or breaking into the field. It's not easy. It's not easy. Although our government, they've tried their level best to ensure that there are laws and regulations that are promoting women, but there's still lots of challenges that many women are facing. I personally believe there's still a lot that can be done to promote women in entrepreneurship.
So when you say it is difficult, you're in the private sector, and then we also have Mrs. Merle in the public sector say it is difficult for women. Dr. Vivian, would you say this is because of African culture, traditions, or what?
It is. That contributes as well. The African culture, it does contribute to that because most countries, they still perceived women as that object that is supposed to be at home, looking after the children, being at home, taking care of the family. Women are not perceived as able to run businesses as men can. So those are the challenges that we are facing. And not only that as well, financial support as well, it's a challenge for women. We are still perceived when they see you, they don't see their equal. You have to remind them at all times that what a man can do, a woman can also do. Because most men, when they see a woman, they see someone that is supposed to be at home taking care of the children, or they see a painting. They see something that an object that they can have sex with. So these are many challenges that I believe many women are facing. But we've come a long way as a country or as a continent because I see more and more women breaking the barriers, more and more women trying, but it is not easy. There's so many challenges that we are facing. And because of the stereotype that a woman belongs in the kitchen, A woman is supposed to be taking care of the family. A woman is not supposed to be a boss. A woman is not supposed to be running companies. That is a stereotype that women like Vivian are fighting to change.
So let's go to Ms. Ismail. You're in the public sector. We're talking about laws now to help accelerate this progress. How is it like trying to bring up laws or bills that will empower more women or bring more women to the limelight? How is it like in South Africa?
Well, basically, I think with more women in the public space, whether it be in politics or whether in business, I think the fact that we have so many, would I say, issues regarding women and children, I think basically the narrative is changing. We see, like in the past years, we have seen women movements grow into social movements. I mean, looking at the Me Too movement or even the total shutdown here in South Africa, we can see that women equality has been forced onto the agenda of governments by women ourselves. I mean, basically, women have actually forced the issue to be discussed now. So we are not equal. We have a long way to go. But with women standing up and speaking out about the issues we face and, holding governments accountable, I think we reaching to actually getting to more equality, if I can put it that way. So when we're looking at the South African government, we obviously actually deals with women and people with disabilities and youth. So that is where we actually drive the women agenda, what is necessary, what is needed. Look, we win some, we lose some. It's not an easy change because we'll find even within the context of the public sector, if you're looking at government itself, I mean, we have also the context of where many men feel that it's in whether it be culture or whether it be whichever facet you look at it, but where even men feel that, oh, you know what, this woman should be sitting at home, or women should be sitting at home. You're talking too much. You should be in a kitchen, as the previous speakers spoke. But frankly, I think when you're looking at the South African context, we are getting to the point where women issues are actually being heard. Obviously, we need much more to be done when it comes to the issues of gender-based violence, and where we need more legal, legislation in terms of, fathers that need to pay for maintenance, for children. There's like barely any investment in the legal space to assist women with lawyers, for countless issues like divorce, maintenance, GBV, domestic violence. So women are still disadvantaged because they're not, they cannot afford to proper legal representation. But I think issues of women are gradually seeping into the space of parliament discussions, and I think this is important because this tells us that women's issues are actually being heard, and we're forcing government to address these, even if it's at a slower space or lower or slower pace, but we are getting there slowly but surely.
All right, thank you so much. I guess as women, we just have to keep the conversation on the front burner so we can get results. And one day, perhaps, we will get there. Well, thank you so much. Member of Parliament in South Africa, Hasina Ismail, and entrepreneur right there in South Africa too, Dr. Vivian Mukeme. Thank you so much, ladies, for your time. And once again, congratulations on today's celebration.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, and happy Women's Day to you too. A female journalist is always excellent.
Thank you so much. All right, so it's a day we're allowed to celebrate ourselves, even if it's just for a bit. But let's head to the market now and see if we still have that smile on our faces, I guess, for the NGX. Yes, we do have that smile because the NGX is up 1.43% after it's regained that 100,000 level yesterday. We see that it's 101,000, for this afternoon intraday, and that is a thing of joy, yes, for a lot of investors at the NGX, even though we see that the fixed income market is stealing a lot of attention back here in Nigeria, but we still have some investors loyal to the NGX, even if it's just for now. So it's up 1.43%, and the index is 101,771.06. South Africa is also green intraday, 0.06% at 73,000. 1,647.57. We look at other markets. Egypt is doing even so much more better, you see. This is what it closed with. Egypt doesn't trade today. So it's 5.24%. That's how it closed on Thursday, 31,300.54. Kenya is also Thursday's close, looking really good. Something is happening right there. You know, is it the sugar cane? 94, but we know them with 100 basis points, so we hope they get there soon. But yesterday it closed with 0.27% added to their market cap yesterday. Middle East, looking at that market, it's negative for Abu Dhabi, 0.06%. Dubai is on the flip, 0.20%. Saudi Arabia is green, 0.13%, while Qatar is, and we know Saudi Arabia and Qatar do not trade on Friday, so these are the closing numbers for Thursday. So Qatar is 0.13% in the positive, and Qatar is negative 0.71%. Let's go to the United States now, where S&P 500 features turned high on Friday. Traders anticipate that release of the jobs report. That's what everybody's hinging on now. Investors are looking that way. Features linked to the broad market index rose 1%, while looking at the number, Dow Jones is in the red, 0.06% at 39,236. For S&P, we see that it's gained. That was information we had, 0.10%. And NASDAQ, the tech guys, the big tech guys, are slightly up, 0.02%. Once again, investors are looking forward to that jobs data. That will determine how the market will close in the United States today, Friday, and stocks climbed during Thursday's regular session, with tech lifting the S&P 500. But let's get more details on Thursday's trading with our correspondent in Washington, Maria Bird.
The U.S. stock market closed in a sea of red on Tuesday, as the Dow Jones was down at 1.04%, the S&P 500 down at 1.02%, and the heavy-tech NASDAQ leading the deficits at 1.65% down. This was caused by what many are seeing as major companies having a downfall. As Super Tuesday in the U.S., with the political scene being at its height, the stock market could not hold its upward swing, as companies like Tesla and Apple showed major declines. Apple showing that it had a major decrease in its sales in China. This has many investors concerned that we might not see interest rate cuts anytime soon.
Yeah, well, a lot of market traders and analysts are looking forward to that interest rate cut, which they hope will start in June. But anyway, let's stay in today now. Asia-Pacific markets rose after comments from the U.S. Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, hinted that interest rate cuts may not be too distant if inflation signals support policy easing. He was speaking at the Senate Banking Committee. Powell did not offer any exact timeline, even though some investors are forecasting May and June, that's the middle of the year, for rate cut, but noted that it would go down soon. Let's look at the numbers right there. We see Nikkei retaining that 39,000 it's hit this week at 39,688.94, gained 0.23% at the close of trade. Kospi at 2,680.35 after it went up 1.24%, while Hang Seng Index 0.76%, almost 1%, up at 16,353.39. Look at other markets in that region. Shanghai is green, as well as Australia. AX 200 gained more than 1% at the close of trade in Asia. Now let's go to European Union now and see what's going there. The EU's Digital Markets Act took effect this week, and tech giants like owners of Facebook, Meta that owns Facebook, will have to change how they offer services. But let's find out more with Chip. Chip, good afternoon. What's this about?
Thanks for having me. Well, the aim of the EU's Digital Markets Act is to create an environment that allows smaller players to compete. The law targets tech giants that are considered gatekeepers in various areas. Those companies are Apple, Amazon, Facebook owner Meta, Alphabet, which of course owns Google, and then there's Microsoft and Chinese tech giant ByteDance, which owns TikTok. Brussels wants to curb their market dominance. The companies will have to inform the European Commission about any buyout, and they will be forced to provide users with more choices. If they don't comply, they could face a fine of up to 20% of their global revenue. The Digital Markets Act, the DMA, is essentially forcing tech companies to change how they offer products and services in the EU. And that could put a dent in their business strategies.
So how are the big tech guys responding to this?
Well, big tech is trying to defend its market positions with new rules and fees, for instance. Tech giants have also hired massive teams to help them tackle compliance to the Digital Markets Act. Alphabet's Google reportedly has thousands of engineers working on DMA alone, but the EU only has 80 staff members working on that topic, and it's just over 200 when combined with the Digital Services Act. Critics have pointed out that it will be very difficult for the EU to ensure tech giants are complying with the rules. The European Commission may very well have to prioritize the violations it investigates and look at what could be more valuable in the long run. But of course, when the tech giants are fined, they can contest the fines in court, and we have already seen that. Google is contesting fines worth over 8 billion euros. And this week, Apple said it would contest a 1.8 billion euro antitrust fine over music streaming.
I wonder if this is affecting their prices at the markets.
Well, European markets are expected to trade higher today. The prospect of an interest rate cut by the European Central Bank in the coming months is supporting markets. On Thursday, ECB President Christine Lagarde said that the Eurozone's central bank may be able to lower rates in June. Projections show inflation approaching the ECB's 2% target next year. Investors will also be keeping an eye on the U.S. labor report for February. Now, the latest jobs data could provide an indication about the U.S. Federal Reserve's future monetary policy.
All right, Chip, thank you so much for the week's analysis. Now we head to Botswana, where the Wildlife Producers Association, that's the PWPA, has expressed discontent against the United Kingdom's hunting trophies, that's import prohibition bill. The bill, tabled in the UK's Parliament in 2022, seeks to prohibit the import of hunting trophies into the UK. Speaking at a media briefing in Gaborone, the Minister of Environment and Tourism, Dumezweni Mithokulu, says that the proposed bill will have a negative impact on communities dependent on income of management of hunting in Africa. Our South African correspondent crossed over to Botswana. Innocent Semusa reports.
The tourism sector is a significant contributor to Botswana's economy, accounting for a substantial portion of the country's GDP. However, the sector is facing some challenges. The Botswana Wildlife Producers Association alleges that former President Ian Khama is at the center of the United Kingdom's hunting trophies import prohibition bill. Government says the motive behind Khama's involvement remains unclear.
So I can't come out here and call out the motive of a former president. Huh? Why? But I told you. Remember I said he is involved in the tourism industry. He has a vested interest in the tourism industry, which is not consumptive. You understand? So I called upon you to go and find out from him, because now you know I've given you facts. Huh? Find out, seek an interview with him. Find out from him why.
The trophy hunting industry brings in approximately it has been estimated between 20 and 30 million US dollars per annum. And that is very significant revenue that if we lose it, or if the country loses it, and if communities lose that revenue, they will then be foregoing their opportunities to benefit from this wildlife.
I had the privilege to meet with the representatives from the Hunters Association of Botswana to hear their perspective on wildlife conservation and tourism.
climate change. It's a major one. Most of the animals move as a result of looking for grazing and looking for water. Currently, we are in a drought here, so we certainly most of the watering points, which normally dry up in June, July, are currently dry. So it's a big challenge.
The government of Botswana is calling on the United Kingdom to consult communities on the ground who directly benefit from trophy hunting. Currently, Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Zambia highly benefit from trophy hunting. Attempt to get comment from former President Ian Khama was indeed unsuccessful. From Maung, Botswana, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Oh, thank you so much, Innocent. Right there, we go to Kenya. Kenya's Sugar Pricing Committee has implemented a 2% reduction in the price of sugarcane, responding to a concurrent decrease in the cost of the commodity on the retail market. In the most recent review, the committee mandates with periodically assessing sugarcane prices revised the cost from 6,050 per ton to 5,900 Kenyan shilling. Jucheshi, the head of the Sugar Directorate, cited that a notable decline in retail sugar prices is the driving factor behind this adjustment. To determine the sugarcane cost, the committee considers prevailing sugar prices and ex-factory rates, aiming for equitable returns to both growers and the millers. The committee comprises representatives from various entities, including EFA, the Ministry of Agriculture, farmers, millers, and sugar-producing counties. I guess it's good to know that prices can also go down, you know, when things get better, when supply is boosted. From Kenya, we move to to Ghana. From Kenya, we go to Ghana. The World Bank, about a month ago, approved a $300 million development policy operation for Ghana. It is the first resilient recovery development policy financing a critical contribution by the bank's International Development Association to help Ghana's economic recovery and support the country's resilient and inclusive growth. Ghana's inflation for February is expected to increase, running by about 40 basis points to 23.9%. And this will make it the second month in a row where inflation is increasing. We had that in January and expecting it again in February. Inflation rose in January, marking the first. You know, we're celebrating in December. It was down for about 6 months consecutively. Let's find out the reality of this in Ghana. And joining us for this conversation is the Dean, University of Cape Coast in Ghana, Professor John Gatse. Prof, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Good afternoon.
So, you know, sometimes when we look at this, international agencies and funding agencies, IMF, World Bank, and all of that, some people do have negative sentiment about their requirements before assistance come. But talk to us on a personal basis or one-on-one basis. How much of an impact? I see that Ghana did get that $300 million in January. Do people feel the impact of this funding? Does it really trickle down? Or is it the inflation part? Because we know things like inflation and tightening of rates and devaluing of the currency. You know, these are the things that people feel. Do they also feel the impact of the funding that the government receives?
Well, government is not supposed to be immediate. So that the period of time before people begin to feel it. To a large extent, the crisis are actually occasioned poverty up significantly, and that poverty level is still up or even going up the ladder. Any effect of that yet? Effect of lower inflation that we have experienced is as a result of Ghana being from to the central government. That reworking to the effect of what we call dominance is the reason why we have a downward trend in inflation. We all that the down from December because of different policy implications, new taxes, inflation, poor development, and again the depreciation of the cedi, and for that matter, the poor development inflation I've seen. But we hope that the pumping of those 3 billion that you talk about will implementing project will be in some aspect of the budget and effect at a future date.
So the thing about managing the economy, at least back here in Nigeria, we've had people like economist Mr. Bismarck Rwani say one major ingredient that seems to be missing is truth or communication, information between the government and the governed and the people. So when we see numbers like $300 million, do the people really know what to expect? Can they follow the money and find out what government is planning to use it for if they eventually use it? Do you have that bridge also in Ghana where people are seeking to know information, seeking the truth from the government?
Well, we have similar experiences here. The only was in concerning, so you are not very clear whether the company has constructed this, has put out this energy infrastructure or the facility. That is what the development. We are not specific project that this money is directed towards. All we know that is supporting to manage budget, and there are so many things in the budget we do not know which one is supported by the 300 million has come. Of course, we know that the country has a big hole. That is just a drop in that will not be significant for the country. But if we are able to get and the development activity that the money will, that is easy for tracking, that easy for ability. It's also easy for.
Yeah, unfortunately, Prof, the network is breaking. So, I mean, it seems you won't be able to do a sentence without getting cut off. But we really do appreciate your time. And unfortunate to hear that it's still the same. Whether it's an African thing, I don't know, where there's always that missing link of communication between the government and the governed. So if a government on behalf of the people is getting funding, do the people really know what to expect from that funding so they're able to follow up with that? So it's about, and that's why we're having this conversation about a month after that announcement, that Ghana is getting $300 million, giving that time to see, has the fund landed? Do the people know what's the plan for this fund? Unfortunately, it seems we cannot conclude that conversation, but it's a common thread in Africa, which is not a good one at all. Well, let's move to the crypto space there, and it's an exciting time right there here in Nigeria. For about 2 weeks or more now, we've been having different information between the Nigerian government and Binance, mind you. Binance is not the only cryptocurrency platform, but Binance is the one at the fore at this time, at least in Nigeria. And so we've had executives talking, and the lawmakers have called rumors of ban and fines and all of that. But we do know, what we know is that the Naira feature has been deactivated on the Binance platform. That is for sure. So you can no longer do peer-to-peer and all those Naira transactions. But there are other things. Bitcoin is very exciting at this time. It seems to be in its bullish mood. But let's look at the price. We see that this week it hit, I think it's a former record high of 69,000 plus, and dropped. Those prices don't stay because profit taking will certainly hit. And so we see it's down to 67,359.50 after it gained 0.64%. I'm sure this has changed. This was taken, the numbers were taken before this program started about an hour ago. Ethereum gained 3.76% at 3,945.01. Solana has been in the news. You know, I hope we can get a conversation on that. Cardano, XRP, and AVX. And then we see the other not so big guys in the red. So the market is mostly bullish at this time. But let's settle on Bitcoin and see some headlines around it. So Bitcoin too hit 70,000 as this bearish metric plummets. And this is according to founder Anthony Pump. We have that. We have another one, you see, Pump actually said that it will hit 138,000 in the next 3 weeks. In the next 3 weeks. I don't know about this. And then this is another one. And then, of course, we have Solana hit a 2-year high right there. And we have in the Philippines, the government blocks unlicensed crypto exchange sites. And it's important to say that Binance is not part of it. That's in the Philippines, the Philippine government right there. But let's find out more about this with Olumide Adeshino to see his own projection for the Bitcoin price in the next 3 weeks or so. Hi, Olumide, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. So the projections are just so much. Now we have Pump investment owner saying that in 3 weeks, Bitcoin will hit 138,000. We have another saying 70,000. What's your own projection? Let's get that first.
Yeah, it's been an historical Bitcoin market, but one thing for sure is that Wall Street has taken over the multi-trillion dollar market since BlackRock's spot ETF got approved. We've seen inflows from traditional investors at record level, and that really has pushed the sought-after crypto assets beyond $1 trillion market valuation. And that's why at some point it broke its all-time high before taking market observation that brought it below 59,000 before taking back to 67,000. So, yeah, you could see that the projection made by Standard Chartered, JP Morgan, seems to be coming to light. And, you know, with ETF on Ethereum spots also coming to play, the market is suggesting that the bull season might really hit on. But right now, a couple of minutes, the US job report data is coming out, and an hawkish narrative around a pleasant job report definitely will mean a more hawkish Fed, or the ammunition for the US Fed to rather leave interest rates. So Bitcoin still has some odds to face, but the truth of the matter is that traditional investors have really propped up their assets. But concerns still remain because we've seen that a few days ago, Bitcoin lost about $11,000 in a span of a few hours after hitting its record high before stabilizing at 67,000 as we speak. So caution seems to be the play in the crypto market right now.
Yeah, caution. And we had an analyst, I think it was yesterday, who also said the same thing, that this may not be a good time for new investors to get on board.
Yeah, I think I share such a narrative, but the interesting thing is that, you know, with the entry of BlackRock is a $10 trillion asset management firm and comes with different allies like Fidelity, Invesco, Vanak. You know, these are giants on their own. So the inflows from that market will definitely change the evolving digital space. But reality is that meme coins also have been on record high. You look at Dogecoin, in the span of this week alone, has broken beyond the 15 cents before readjusting. Look at Pepe, Shiba Inu. So it's not just Bitcoin and major altcoins. We are also seeing interest in meme coins, and that's where investors need to watch it, because we've seen that any pullback usually bring higher drawdown. So it's more like invest what you can afford to lose.
All right, and it seems that's also what's rubbing off on Solana. It's gained about 45% in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, but interesting thing about Solana is that there are reports that a private equity firm is taking a stash of FTX. Recall that FTX has a substantial amount of Solana, and looking at their books, it seems they are in more big profit. So I think what the FTX management is considering right now, trying to liquidate for customers' retention of or reception of funds, they're looking at selling some of these assets. So I think Solana space has become very interesting. And in Nigeria, Solana seems to attract a lot of interest in Central, particularly Taraba, based on Google Trend. And that's pretty much because of the lower transaction cost when you compare to Ethereum. But the crypto space in Nigeria, I think today seems to be a bit mawkish because Binance is kicking out NGN. The deadline starts today. The deadline is up today. So from today, NGN is off Binance, and that definitely it has a systemic role in the system. I think we're going to watch how it's going to play in the market. But crypto market when it comes to the Nigerian entity is a long run. So I think interesting signs, but the bullish run in the crypto market.
Yeah, well, I think by next week or so, we'll follow up to see the reaction of market and Nigerian investors and how they are able to, go around some of these hurdles that seem to have come their way this week. But thank you so much, Olumide, for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
All right, so that's the much we can take on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of Business Incorporated from Monday. And this is the final one for the week. But guess what? The cycle starts again next week from Monday. So do join us then, 10 a.m. Business Morning, 1 p.m. Business Incorporated. But even before then, tomorrow, 7 p.m., Capital Markets, and Ladi Williams will be here to give you a summary of the week's activity at the market. So do join him then. Have a great weekend. Do take some rest.